5 questions for the Southside YouTube channel. I'm joined by the knockout artist himself, Mr. Chris Hero. Thank you very much for joining me, sir.
Thanks for having me.
First and foremost then, what's your opinions of Southside? You've been here a few times now. For a man like yourself who's well travelled, what do you think to this promotion?
Man, it feels like I've been coming over to England for wrestling since 2003.
Yeah.
I've been here 25, 30 times maybe. I've worked for a lot of different companies. And I mean, right now, European wrestling, British wrestling is just so hot. So many exciting shows, great matches, great wrestlers, great crowds. But I feel a closeness here at Southside. You know, it's the people that run Southside. Yeah. You know, the people in the locker room, everybody's setting up the ring. It feels very close knit, very family, and I feel a part of that family.
Absolutely.
So it's I'm proud to be a part of it and to represent Southside when I go back to the States.
Fantastic. Talking about that British style, as part of your training, you trained with the Blue Bloods Academy with Dave Taylor, William Regal, Fit Finlay. Do you see that influence of that British style in the catch-can wrestling in modern day wrestling? Do you think that's coming back?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I fell in love with British wrestling, you know, with the Johnny Saints and the Steve Grays and the Jim Breaks and that era, you know, I sought out Dave Taylor. I went to his training camp. I worked with Regal. I worked with Finlay, and I just wanted to absorb all of that because at that time. There weren't a lot of people doing cravats in wrestling on mainstream or in independent wrestling. And me and some of my friends just fell in love with that style, and we wanted to bring that escapology style of Johnny Saint, you know, the trickery, and we wanted to bring that back. And in doing so, you know, Johnny Kids starts getting on more shows, and Johnny Saint comes back and starts doing shows. And
he's still wrestling now as well, yeah?
It's amazing that I was able to be, albeit a very small part of it, but just it does my heart good to see the influence now.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think as well the rise of UFC, that catch wrestling style has kind of bridged a gap between pro wrestling and mixed martial arts? Do you think that can sit in the middle there?
I would say a bit of it. I would say MMA is certainly a completely different influence added to the mix. But what you see with the UK independent wrestling, you go back to the early days of the FWA. You had guys like Johnny Storm and Jody Fleisch, who were a generation of wrestlers that grew up on Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
They didn't grow up on Marty Jones and Mick McManus, you know.
No, we had that very much American influence came in. Yeah.
So that's what they loved, and that's what they grew to aspired to do, and they did it, and they made it all over the globe, back and forth several times, and then a resurgence. You know, you've got Doug Williams. You had Paul Burchill do some stuff. You know, there were just a lot of that flavor that just kind of mixed it up. Robbie Brookside started working a lot more. It was really cool to just see all those styles mix.
Fantastic. And you've done training yourself, and you've got a great list of people you've trained. What advice do you give? If you could give that one nugget of advice to a young wrestler to say, right, this is follow this path, or this is the lesson to learn.
Well, I've got two bits. If you really truly want it to happen, whatever it may be, I find that in life. If you truly, really want it to happen, you'll find a way to make it happen. You know, you can always talk yourself out of it. You can always make excuses. But if you really want something, you'll find a way to make it or a variation of it happen. And secondly, wrestling is to be taken seriously, but not too seriously. A lot of guys kind of take themselves a little too seriously, and they kind of forget at the end of the day what we're doing. And it's easy to get bitter about wrestling and what you feel that you should have achieved, or et cetera, or you look out and this guy did this and this guy did that, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, wrestling doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't. You know, the fact that we are able to wrestle for however long or however short, that is a true privilege. And I think we lose sight of that because we get wrapped up in the moment of wanting this opportunity and wanting that. So at the end of the day, wrestling doesn't owe us anything. We owe to wrestling, and we should give back to wrestling in whatever way we can. And when we go out there and we leave our sweat in the ring, and we leave the fans out of their seats, that's our giving back to wrestling.
Fantastic. And the final question then, On the subject of wrestling not knowing us anything and achieving things, is there anything left for Chris Hero that he wants to achieve?
Of course, man. There's how many countries are in the world? Do we know?
More than I know about.
More than hundreds. You know, I've wrestled in 16.
Oh, there's plenty more to go.
There's a lot more. There's a lot more. I want to wrestle everywhere. I want to wrestle everybody. And then when it's all said and done, if it is ever said and done, I want to have left a positive imprint on the world of professional wrestling, and I want to have made it better some way. I want to change it for the good somehow on my way through the door.
Very noble sentiment there. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Hero.